Damn, didn't know there was a noise. Okay, what's up, everybody? We're back. It's been a while, but here we are because you may have seen it, but basically every major Canadian MMA promotion is doing a show somewhere between like the end of November to December 10th. And BTC is one of these promotions, and they'll be having their BTC 18 cards, lots of good fights on this event, including Ryan Yapsam, who is with us today to discuss all of that. How are you doing, my man?
I'm doing very well, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to have you on, man. When your manager contacted me, I was excited to have you on because, to be honest, I was very, very impressed with your pro debut. Amin Al Malik, the guy we're fighting, it was a hyped up prospect. He had a very, very close fight out west for his pro debut. And basically, I feel like everybody was kind of expecting him to come in and basically win this fight handily because they didn't quite know who you were. And you just came in, you won the fight handily and delivered a very, very, very good performance. So I wanted to know, like, couple of months removed from that, what are your feelings about that? How do you feel like about your pro fight and everything?
Oh no, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I feel really good about it. I knew they didn't have much to go off of because I had a lot of time away from the cage before going into the professional scene. So I knew they weren't gonna have a lot of footage. I knew they weren't gonna have a lot of knowledge on what kind of fighter I was gonna be going in there. So I had an idea of what I was up against. I knew that he was going to be really good in the striking aspect and he wasn't going to be too strong in the grappling. So I felt pretty confident going in there, knowing that I could hang in there with some really high level strikers and take it to the ground and be comfortable there as well. So I'm happy I got the win against. He was a great opponent, and I know he comes from a really well-known gym. They have a lot of high-level guys there. So for me to go out there and make a statement like that, I'm very happy with it. So it went pretty well for me.
For sure. And like you said, you were away for a long time. I tried to check because I'll know out here in Quebec, like the amateur record is not really like anywhere. Like you just have to know it if you know the fighter. Like it's not really on topology because there are like plenty shows that are just like unsanctioned, let's say like that. So I was wondering like I only seen one amateur fight on your topology, and I was wondering like is it because like he fought but we just is just not on record, or is it that he was just away for a long time? But it kind of answered my question there.
Yeah, that's how it was. They were when I was doing my walkout, and one of the commentators was explaining my background. He's like, "Oh, he had his pro debut back in 2016 in February," and I'm like, "That was not my debut. My debut was back in 2014, and it was at some no-name show, probably unsanctioned. You know how the amateur scene is. It's probably unsanctioned. It was just in some gym out in the middle of Woodstock, I believe it was." And that was my pro debut, and I was just so lost in there. I remember going to MMA and just being so lost inside the cage, not having any really backgrounds in martial arts and not really knowing what to throw at these guys. So I was getting my ass whooped left, right, and center, and I was like, okay, I gotta really take the time and learn these martial arts probably before I go and take this serious and go in the professional scene. So the fact that they thought my debut was in 2016 and didn't have much footage, that was definitely worked to my advantage. And I was like, yeah, this is good. I don't want you guys to know about me. I don't. I want it to be a surprise for you. I want it when you start, the fight's gonna be like, oh fuck, he's actually really good. This is messed up. So I think I surprised everybody there, and so it kind of worked out in my favor.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like I said, it was one of the really good like let's say like that, like first fight in a while, or first fight as a pro, like one of the really good rookie performances of the year. Like you just came in, nobody pretty much knew you, and you just fought your ass off, and you didn't look like a rookie, which is good. Because sometimes you got some pro fighters, especially nowadays, they fight amateur two or three times. They got like, let's say, the athletic skills. They got all of that. So they say, wow, I'm good. I can wreck some guys over here. So I'm going to just move on as a pro. And like we've seen guys turn pro and just not be ready at all in the last couple of years. So it's just good to see you could come in and be like more than ready to be there.
Yeah, I think I really try to prepare myself mentally, and I always just try to imagine what it'd be like being in the cage actually with the cameras on and they're announcing your name, and just imagining that first kind of sequence. That kind of helps you settle into the nerves a little bit for me, especially. So just visiting it mentally beforehand, and then once you do it physically, your body's already reacting the way it was when you're imagining it before, and your body's like, okay, no, I'm used to this. I know what to do. I know what's gonna feel like. So yeah, I felt like I was really happy with myself, just with how my composure was. I had an amateur fight back in this past year in February, earlier in the year, and it was a very like hyped up event. It was very under the ground, low key event, but it was a very high stressful environment. And it was the same deal where people didn't know who I was. They set me up with someone who I believe that they thought the guy was going to run through me. And that really pissed me off. And I was just like, oh, yeah, you guys have no idea what's coming now. Like, I know I'm really dangerous wherever the fight's going to go, whether it's on the ground, on the feet. They thought I was going to be a striker, so I wanted to show them. I was like, no, I can go to the ground too. I've yet to be tested on my back, so I know there's probably going to be a few people looking to do that, but I'll be able to show them once that time comes that I'm pretty dangerous there too. So yeah, it went perfect for me. I was really happy with my composure and everything like that. I'm just trying to keep that going, and I'm just going to use the same tactics. You know, this fight coming up, I've seen just what the cage looks like and stuff, so I've just been practicing, trying to visualize it beforehand, how it's going to feel when I'm waiting in the back room, how it's going to feel when I'm walking out, when they're announcing our names and going over the sponsors, all that kind of stuff. I've just tried to visit it mentally as much as I can. Because once I get there physically, my brain's like, no, we've already been here. This is okay. And once you're in that relaxed state, I feel like fighters can really let it flow and show their true self. Because sometimes fighters will be absolute rock stars in the gym and they'll be able to really crush it against their training partners, and maybe they are really good. But when the lights are on and people are watching and the crowd's with you there, it's a different scene, and some people really choke up. So I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to have to choke up when the lights were on and be like, man, I can't even fully express myself because I'm too worried about, oh, it's such a new environment and people are watching now, and I'm getting worked up about things that I really have no control over. So just visiting mentally as much as I can, and yeah, like I said, it's just a technique that I'm going to keep on using at this point going forward because it worked for me last time. It worked for my fight back in February that I had. And so I'm going to do the same thing here. And just so, like I said, just so I can express myself truly when the time comes and I can let my techniques flow the way that they should. I can land shots. I could be more comfortable staying in the pocket, taking shots too, because I think that matters as well. Because it's a different vibe when someone's inspiring, someone's coming at you and they're trying to hurt you, but not necessarily because you're with your training partners. But when you're actually in there with someone who has, you could tell that they have bad intentions. Like you can really feel it with them because it's a very I don't want to, I guess you could say almost an intimate thing with your opponent that you can really sense that, okay, this guy's really trying to hurt me. And people get shaken up with that when they don't experience that too often. So just getting used to that kind of environment that I'm like, yeah, okay, this guy's trying to hurt me, but as long as I can stay relaxed, I can let my hands flow the way the way it should be. I can let my takedowns flow the way they're supposed to. And it just, like I said, you just express yourself a lot more truthfully.
Man, that's really good what you're saying, because it's true. It's so important, and that's like one main trait you see in prospects sometimes, that like they're good, they're athletic, they got the technique, they got everything, but sometimes they get too worked up, and something happens in a fight, whether good or bad, that just absolutely gets them out of their game, because like I don't know, they get excited that they get too tired, supposed to what they're supposed to be tired at that special point of the fight. And you see it on both sides. Sometimes they just come and shit does not work for them, and they just fall off their game, and you see that there's no like second option, second plan to what they're doing. They had an idea, it's not working, and now they're just there and they don't know what to do. And you got the prospect who just comes in, has all the success in the world, and the first time he sees an adversity, he gets like it back clean in return, and he gets in a weird spot or in a tough spot in a fight. It just falls apart. And some of them, they get better from that. You see others who just lose and never win again. You see some UFC guys, even like like Ronda Rousey, probably the best example amongst all of them. But like even some guys like Edmund Shabazian, who weirdly enough is from her camp, so that may be a camp thing. But like you see that stuff happening. So being able to really focus on being calm, being controlled in the cage, man, it's just such an advantage that you have at this stage of your career, man.
Yeah, no, it's helped quite a bit. And the only reason why I was able to go in there so calm and collected and let things flow properly is because I've been in a position where I've competed and I've just been totally flat and I'm totally nervous and I can't, you know what I mean? I can't even focus on what's going on. My mind is racing too much that I can't even focus on the techniques that I'm trying to do. So I've been in that position already. I only know what it's like to be confident because I've already been unconfident. I already have so much belief in myself now because I know what it's like to not have no belief in myself. And I've already been in that stage where I'm doubting myself and I'm letting these negative thoughts get to me, and I'm thinking, oh fuck, I'm gonna go in here and this guy's gonna whoop my ass. But fuck, I gotta do it anyways. I've been there. So only once that I've been through that kind of shit, now I can be smarter. Like I'm only smart now because I've been dumb. I know what it's like to be strong as hell now because I've been weak. I feel like you can't have one without the other. So I feel like I paid my dues, and I didn't spend too much time in that state of mind, which is great. Obviously, but I think it was necessary for me to go through those things and have just the shit performances. And you have all this build up to the fight, and you go in there and you're totally nervous, and you can't even, you just feel flat. It's almost like, I'm sure anyone who's had a dream where they're fighting, they can attest to this. But when you dream that you're fighting someone, you're punching as hard as you can and you're trying as hard as you can, but you can't. It's oftentimes you can't hurt the person. It's the most frustrating thing, and like you feel like your punches aren't doing anything. That's what I felt like actually in my competition sometimes, that I was punching as hard as I could and trying to move as best as I could, but it was doing absolutely nothing. So I was like, I need to get over this mental hump quickly. And I was gonna make sure I was gonna take the proper time to really shit the bed in the ring or on the mats or in the cage, whatever it was, before actually doing it on the professional level. Because now it matters. Now they're counting the record. The cameras are on. People are going to be watching. This is what people get. This is what people care about. No one gives a shit about what you did in the amateur scene. You did great. Cool. No one gives a fuck. If you did really bad, great. No one gives a fuck. What matters now is the professional scene when people are actually watching. We're getting paid for this. It's a whole new different system that we're working with here. If there's media involved, we're doing interviews and stuff like that. You know what I mean? This is what really matters. So I was gonna make sure, okay, I'm not gonna go to the professional scene until I'm so confident in myself that I'm not gonna let that kind of stuff bug me. There's no chance in hell now I'm gonna go in the ring or go in the cage and be overwhelmed with the jitters. Yeah, I'll be nervous as always, like every fighter should be. You should be nervous, but I'm not gonna let it overwhelm me to the point that I can't perform. I'm gonna go in there feeling nice and relaxed, like I'm at home, just thinking of my training partners, thinking of my coaches, thinking of the techniques I've practiced, and just letting it flow as it should. And that's where I can be my best self. And I'm not naive in thinking that I could be anybody, but I think at a certain point in my career, as I keep going along this journey, I will be one of those guys that I'm like, yeah, I can take on anybody. I'm not there right now, but I definitely confident in myself. I'm not delusional. I'm not thinking I could take on the top UFC guys or anything like that, or any of the top prospects. But I definitely know if I keep continuing on the journey that I'm on, working the way I am, eventually I'm definitely going to be one of those guys that I'll be able to take on anybody. I'll just have to work my way up and go through the process like every fighter does, and I'm excited for it. I'm on the journey now. In my mind, I'm serving a life sentence now. I'm married to the game. I want to be 25 years in before I get out. So I started the career at 25. I want to be fighting at 50 years old. You know what I mean? So I want to do this for long. I really want to be one of those 50-year-olds like Yoel Romero, and just want to be one of those dudes just like, how is he still going? How is he still going? So I'm looking into all these different kind of things I can do for longevity. Like I try not to spar too hard with my partners. The way I see it, I always tell them when we came in, like nice and light to the head. But for the body shots and leg kicks, really give it, because like the way I see it, you can really recover and learn how to get better from taking a body shot or a leg kick. But you don't get better at taking headshots. It's one of the few things that you can do in life that you do over and over and over again that you actually get worse at. You don't get better is taking headshots. So I tell my partners, I'm like, if I touch your head hard, that's like if I touch your head and it pops it back a bit, that's way too hard. I should be lightly tapping or not even touching at all. You know what I mean? And that comes with experience, and that comes with going along this journey of just getting a little more experience, like training that you know how to control yourself during sparring. But I never want to hurt my sparring partners. I never want to go hard on them, and I hope they have the same mentality with me. If I have an open shot on my training partner, like a straight right hand, I'll motion it, but I won't actually follow through or connect because I'm like, this isn't going to help him. I had the right angle, I had the right positioning, so I could have landed it, and I know that in my head. But I'm not going to land it on him because he's not going to get better at taking a headshot. And I'm trying to do this for the long run too. And if I'm going to be that respectful to my training partners, I'm carefully choosing who I'm going to spar with, so I know that they'll do the same for me. So I just want to do this for the long run. I don't want to go through all these gym wars when it's not necessary. When it's time to go to war, I'll go to war, and I'll risk that. I'll risk that damage, and I'll go to war with somebody when it's time. But in the gym, that's not the time to do it. With our training partners, that's not going to help anybody. You don't get better from that. You know what I mean? So I really just trying to think of the longevity aspect of this, and I think just sparring nice and light with a high pace, with still maintaining a high pace, is what's going to help me reach that goal of being able to fight when I'm old as shit. So that's what I want to do.
Man, that's really intelligent of you, because to be honest, bro, when I started training, I was fucking surprised, man, at the way that some of like pro fighters and everything like were training. I was like, man, I barely see these guys like at classes. Basically, they don't really. Sometimes I'll see them with a coach in the corner and they're doing some pads or whatever, but like very rarely I see them do this, and they just pull up for training, do fucking 6 to 8 rounds of sparring, and after they wrestle on the wall.
Yeah.
And that's the old goddamn training, and they do that like 4 to 5 times a week, and you see them get knocked out and
Oh
fucking
man.
like, bro, I've seen a guy blow his knee in the gym, and I was like, why are you guys doing it? And like, bro, that was 2015. That wasn't like the way I'm speaking, you're almost thinking like, oh, bro, this guy started training in like 2001. No, 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 that's 2015, man. Like
Yeah.
some of these guys like that were training with that group. Yeah, some of them even moved on to be like, yes, in the UFC, and some of them are still on the regional scene or whatever. But bro, I just couldn't like figure out, like, imagine how these fucking guys were training, man. Like, bro, how can you do that for a while when you're just getting knocked out and going crazy in the gym, like every like and yes, maybe like, because I know there's different philosophies like towards sparring, and some of them just don't do it because they took damage, and like fighters that have much experience, let's say Max Holloway, guys like that, like they can't they have the privilege, I feel, to not really spar anymore because they just been through that shit for like years and years. But like there's places where they still want to do hard sparring, but even these places most of the time it's like once a week, and it's not even every week if you're in fight camp.
When you're like when I the way I see it, if you're hard sparring, I even think once a week sometimes is too much, depending how much damage you took in that sparring session. A lot of guys think that their head's okay just because they don't have a headache or something. And I'm like, no, your head's not okay. You need a lot more time
No,
to rest
it's
that head.
not,
Like, don't
man.
get it. You know what though? I think the culture is changing slightly because like you mentioned, a lot of like there's still a lot of people who have the perspective like, oh no, you spar hard and if you get rocked, like toughen up. And I think that culture's changing a little bit. And I kind of want to be a part of that change to promote that, where we don't have to have this. I think that's just an ego thing. We're trying to be these tough guys, and if you're hurt and you're rocked, you shouldn't be sparring that hard. You really shouldn't be. And I was like this way even when I was boxing as an amateur back in like 2016, 2017. I would get rocked during sparring, and mid round, I wasn't 2 days, but it was rocked enough that I was just like, okay, I'm done for the day. And my coaches and my training partners are looking at me like I'm some bitch, but I'm like, I remember back then I was like, I don't care. I don't care what you guys think. This is my journey here. I'm done for the day. Don't worry, man. No, yeah, it wasn't too hard. No, you're good. I'm not bad. No, I'm just gonna wrap it up today. I'm good for the day. And that was it. They looked at me like I was weird, but again, I don't give a fuck. It's my health at the end of the day. I know how I want to go about this journey, so that's why I wanna. That's how I went about it. And the culture's changing, but there's still a lot of people who will never have that kind of mentality. I think they'll always be like kind of that meatheady, like, oh no, go hard and all this different kind of stuff. But I'm like, that's not the way, man. And you can see some of the professionals, like you mentioned, they get to a certain point in their career where they're not even sparring hard for their camps or sparring at all. Guys like Max Holloway say he doesn't spar at all. Donald Cerrone, for a while, he was not sparring before his camps. Robbie Lawler, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, George St. Pierre, the list goes on. Like a lot of these high level guys, they had more to give in the octagon, but they couldn't because they're taking too much damage in the ring and or in the on the mats and training, and they understand this kind of stuff. And just like I said, it's an ego thing. I think we want to say that we're all tough people, and when you're a fighter, at the end of the day, you're a super tough person. Like anyone who's going to step in there, even if you're just training, good for you. You already are a tough person. Why do you need to take it to that next step and have this pissing contest of, oh, I can really get in there and go to war? It doesn't make sense to me. And like I said, I think it's just an ego thing. And I'm like, I'm gonna skip this phase, and I'm just gonna make sure that I have minimal damage, because the damage is gonna come whether you want or not. Like you can't play with fire and not expect to get burned. So I know the damage is gonna come, but if I can minimize it, I'm gonna take that route.
Nah, for sure. And you said you want to fight till you're 50, but like even if you do so, like nowadays you still got 40 good years left after that. So you want to be able to speak, to think, to do shit, like not be like a shell
Absolutely.
of yourself, not being able to, because we've seen like, bro, there's a boxer in Quebec, and like it's just so sad every time I see him. It's he was a world champion, so you probably know him. Is Adonis Stevenson.
No, I don't know what that is,
And
but
like he was a world champion, I think, two of a cruiserweight, something like that, like big guy.
yeah.
And he fought a guy. I think I don't remember who the guy was, but like a Russian guy, really good Russian guy, and he got his ass whooped. And basically, he never got knocked out per se in that fight, but the ref just put an end to the fight. Let's say at the end of the eighth or the 10th round. But the fucking guy went into a coma.
Oh man.
He didn't die, but like today he's on the recovery, but it's been years since that, and I still see him today. And the poor guy, he's not all there, man. Like
Yeah.
he left a part of himself in that, and that we can go into all other tirade about boxing, because I feel like boxing is the gloves and everything, guys. They don't get knocked out, and sometimes you're just better getting knocked out than get it concussed for 8 rounds straight, 8 rounds straight. So, but that's another debate. But like, just go to show how much this shit can affect you. And this guy, man, like he's not all there anymore. He's trying to be on social media and everything, like to be to encourage people and everything, to give hope to people or whatever. But like there was even fight within his family about who was gonna be the person in charge of his finances, because the guy's not even all there anymore to take care of his own money and his own properties. So it's just, man, some really bad shit can happen to you in that sport. So like you say, you may want to try to take this bad shit in the ring and not like in the gym, because a career can get ruined in the gym, and fucking you were maybe the next Josh St. Pierre, the next great fighter, and you just, something bad happened in the gym because somebody wasn't careful or whatever, and then you're just done. And
Yeah, no, that's really tragic to hear about the boxing kind of stuff. And yeah, like I agree. Like I think as fighters, we get too tripped up, and especially when you're starting out, that's all you're thinking about is just making it to the UFC or making it to Bellator or whatever your goals are, and being the champion in that division. And we kind of just we have this tunnel vision where we're only looking at the goal and anything we can do to get there, whatever. And we sometimes forget we go through phases of life, and there's going to be a life after fighting. And like you said, you could have a solid 30, 40 years after your fight career, and that's if you go super late, right? So it's there's a lot of stuff we have to consider and we have to be aware of, especially one of those things like you mentioned. There's a life after fighting, and I think we get too tunnel vision and we forget about that. That yes, you should be super focused and you should go all out. I agree, but even for myself, I know there's a certain point where I'm like, you know what? If I get to a point that I feel like I could be on that path of not being able to handle my own finances or not being able to speak properly and things like that, I would call it quits early, absolutely 100%. Because my friends and family deserve to see the best version of myself, and they can't see that if I'm all fucked up in the head and I can't even form sentences properly. I understand the guys who take it that far, and they're just straight up warriors, and there's nothing there. I'm not knocking against them at all. I'm not saying they're dumb. I'm not saying they're stupid. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I want to take it a little bit differently, because I understand that as much as I'm going to go out this 100%, I understand there's a life after fighting, and I want to I want to be present for my friends and family for that, because life has so much more to offer than just getting the belt and getting the money and all that kind of stuff that we're going for. There's more to life afterwards. So when it's time to go to war, I'll go to war and I'll take that damage. But when I feel like it's time to hang it up and it's time to leave for the sake of the better half of my years with my family, I'll leave it. You know what I mean? I'll leave it from there.
yeah, man, for sure. So before I let you go, we need to talk about this fight a little bit, because it's a good one. Alex Gluzman, a guy that was hyped up as an amateur, came in, lost his pro debut. Did you see this fight?
I have not. You know what? I was in the process of just before we started this interview. I was just checking out some footage of him, and I was watching his fight. I've only seen one round, and the first round of his last fight, he spent most of it on his back. He didn't really have the best start. Wasn't his fault though. But yeah, no, I'm excited for this matchup. I think this is a great one for me. Gluzman, he seems like just I don't know the guy, but just looking at him, he looks like a really tough guy. He looks like he's got a lot of heart, so I know it's not going to be an easy fight by any means. But just looking at his stance and looking how he's moving, I think I'll have the advantage on the feet for sure. So I think it's a great matchup. I think grappling wise will be pretty even. But as far as the stand up goes, I think that's where I'm going to have a lot of success. And with a guy who has a lot of heart and who has skills everywhere, I think it's just going to make for a great fight. So I think I'm excited for this matchup. He seems like it's such a worthy contender. He comes from a great gym too, Jocelyn's MMA. I know Jeff Jocelyn is an absolute beast. I've actually had the honor to get a few rolls with him on the mats, because I've trained at their gym briefly back like 4 years ago, like 2018. But yeah, he comes from a great gym. He has a great coach, so I know he's not going to be a scrub on the ground. The stand up is where I think I will have a lot of success, and it'll just be a fun fight. Like I said, he seems like he's got a lot of heart, and his stand up's not horrible, so it's going to be a great fight. But I think it's the advantage is going to be for me everywhere, so I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it's exciting, and especially at bantamweight, man. This division, like I feel like it's everywhere you go. Like at Bellator, bantamweight, one of the best division in the UFC. In my opinion, it's the best division. Like my favorite fighters, they're all bantamweights. But like it's like that everywhere. In Canada, it's the same thing. Even on that same card, you got some other good bantamweights like Cody Trovancek, fucking Nate Small, who is pretty good too. They're gonna be fighting. I feel like this is a division that there's like so much opportunity in at the moment.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of talent in this division, and I'm really happy that matchup's going to be great too. I'm really happy for the smaller weight classes too, because back in the early UFC days, they before they I don't know, I think the lowest weight class was it not 45 or something? I can't even remember. Or what it might have been 35, but regardless, though, a lot of people usually paid attention to like maybe the lightweights and welterweights at 155 and 70. But nowadays, yeah, there's a lot more attention going out of the smaller weight classes, like the 25ers and the 35ers, especially, which is just great. Yeah, there's a lot of skill down there, and it's a really stacked division, especially on the local amateur, not the amateur scene, sorry, just the local professional scene here. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of great guys up and coming, so there's going to be some good matchups in the future.
Yup, and man, that BTC card was looking good, and in the last few days, earlier this week, we had kind of a bad good news, in the sense that Jesse Ronson unfortunately was cut from the UFC, which is absolutely terrible because I feel like he's still a good fighter, and like I fucking love Jesse Ronson. He's one of my favorite fighters since I started watching the sport basically. So I want him to be like in the UFC, the biggest leagues, but that makes it good for BTC because he's gonna be on that card. He's gonna be the main event. So
Yeah,
I was just wondering, like, how does that make you feel? Because of course that's gonna add some eyes to this event. So more people are gonna buy this event to see the Jesse Ronson fight. So I feel like
was
it's
sorry, Jesse Ronson was in the UFC.
no, he got cut and he's gonna be fighting.
No,
He's gonna
he was in the UFC before.
yeah. It was his second
Okay.
stint, and like, bro, it's just bad, man. He the guy is basically first time out, he lost. We all know the thing. He lost three split decisions to three very, very good guys. Got cut, did everything he had to do, went back, wins his first fight back, but then fails a drug test, fucking gets his win taken away, then
Wow.
loses two other fights, so he gets cut again. And like basically he's like 0-6 in the UFC for his career, which fucking sucks because man, he deserved a win, like just one. Come on.
I know, I know. No, that's awesome. Good for him though. If he was able to make it for the UFC, that's really tough. And I've heard a lot of people say that making to the UFC isn't the hard part. The hard part is staying in the UFC. That's the tough part. So the fact that he was able to make it there, good for him though. And now he's on the card main event. Beautiful. There's gonna be lots of eyes. Yeah, I'm like that's awesome for the fighters here. The fact that he's gonna make a comeback on the BTC card now, that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure, because that's like Canadian MMA OG that you got there. So
For sure.
when
Yeah.
you
That's
got names like that on an event, it's always good for the prospects on the event, and like you're one of them. So
yeah,
it's
that's
gonna be
awesome.
a good one. I can't wait, to be honest. It's like one, I think maybe now Unified is the week after, not the last card of the year, but one of the last cards of the year. We'll
Yeah.
be really excited to watch this, cover this, and everything. So thanks a lot, my man, for taking the time. It was a pleasure. Very good conversation. And I'll leave you with like the final word. Anyone you want to shout out, team, coaches, sponsors, anybody, the floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. Just want to say thanks to all my training partners and coaches at Ajax MMA. I have a lot of great guys there that have my back. And at 10th Plan of the Tobago, that gym's welcomed me with open arms. I have a really good crew there. They make me super confident in my grappling and the striking that I get from Ajax MMA. So just thank you. And thank you to all my sponsors, too. You know who you are. Raybro Farms. Before I had Soda Blast, Benji's podcast, Benji's Coffee. And then I also had Delwyn's car service, and there was one more I can't remember now. This is gonna kill me now. Who was the last one? Oh, Toronto Fight Shop. Yeah, Toronto Fight Shop down on 486 Evans Avenue in Etobicoke. They really helped me out as well. So thank you all to them and everyone at Etobicoke Martial Arts as well. So yeah, thank you for having me. I just want to get that out there. Thanks so much, man.
My pleasure, man. Anytime if you have something to say or you just want to chat, just hit me up and we'll make a room for you, man.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Cool, man. Have a nice one.
You too. Talk to you there.